Hello, everyone, and happy holidays. It's so nice to have you here at USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is The Listening Mentor. If you're joining us for the first time, thank you so much for taking this opportunity to share our experiences and education. Along with myself, we also have Caroline Heward. She's the Harley Street stress expert, and I'll be bringing her out in just a moment. So this program is all about education and listening skills, listening at an elevated level. I got a little tongue tied there. And we also talk about relationships. We talk about how to bust your stress. Today, we're going to talk about top tips of 2022 to bust your stress. So let's welcome the Harley Street stress expert joining us from London. It's Caroline Heward. Hello. Woo! How's it going? Yeah, shake it up.
It's the penultimate day before the end of the year.
Yes, it is. Are you staying warm there?
Well, if the truth be known, my heating is on full and I'm very cozy.
I'm glad to hear because I remember last week you were cold. By the way, we have somebody saying hello. B, it's so nice to have you with us here. B Holloway, good to have you. Thank you.
Hello.
So, Caroline, I know, and people who are watching the show on a regular basis know that you are an expert in many areas. And today we're going to really tap into that, your work as a therapist and helping people bust their stress. We were just talking a little bit backstage, and sometimes the holidays are stressful for people, especially the end of the year, because we feel disappointed that certain things didn't happen. We feel frustrated. We're looking at other people and what they're doing and what they have. And of course, social media, we're always seeing the best of the best. And it causes people to really go to a dark place. And other people have a great time. Let me have another drink. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me just party all night. And then, of course, the reality the next day shows up when we have a whole new year ahead of us and we have a new opportunity to set goals and to really push our limits. So when someone calls you for an appointment, what types of things are they usually struggling with?
Well, yesterday I had a call from someone that was really stressed in a relationship. So I said, okay, then what's been happening in the relationship and what's stressing you out? And I kid you not, this person had been in a relationship for, he said, 5 to 6 years. And I said, so what's wrong with it? He says, well, she doesn't talk to me anymore. She's not interested in having a conversation. She's always quick to leave my presence and doesn't want to connect too much. And I says, well, when did that start changing? And he said, well, she's been like that for the last, since more than half the time. So I said, okay. So why are you still together? And he said, well, she's in a different country. She's where I used to come from. And I said, okay, so how long have you been apart? And he says, well, we've never met. To that, I sort of had to gulp and say, well, really, you've never met? And you're in this relationship for 5 to 6 years and you've never met? You're not in a relationship. You're in a relationship in your head. Why have I described that to you? Is because most people, they're living in their head in their stress. And when I said to him, well, all you need to do is stop communicating, even block her because she clearly isn't interested in being in a relationship with you. And he said, I feel so much better. And it was because the relationship was in his mind. And this is where stress, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, behavioral, this is where we're constantly in the stress because we're thinking about it, we're analyzing it, we're in a conversation with ourselves in our stress. And so it tends to exacerbate it. So whether it's physical ache and pain, whether it's relationship issues. So I do get a lot of people calling at this time of year with relationship issues. That one was easy. I wish all of them were that easy because he was really, really happy at the end of the call and said, thank you very much for helping me. and he left with, sort of a chip in, a much more chipper experience and expression when he left the call. The other thing that people call me about is when they're feeling depressed because there is a bereavement or there is a sickness that they're not able to contend or cope with.
Caroline, I'm still back on the first one. But you know what's interesting? Not to the same degree, but I do know of someone who was in a relationship with someone for, I think, 6 or 7 years that was strictly over the computer.
Yeah.
And they really thought they were in a relationship. And when you would ask this person, why have you never met in person? The other party gave them all these different reasons as to why. And so the person decided to call them out on it, and they weren't available. That was the bottom line. They weren't available. So they were giving them the least they could possibly give them. And the other person thought it was a full blown relationship. And of course, then there was the sadness, thinking that they spent all those years just on a computer with a relationship. So somebody else out there might think to themselves, well, what about when people were just pen pals and they would write back and forth to each other, and they developed some type of connection? What would you say to that?
I did actually give him that metaphor as an analogy, that he was in a relationship in a pen pal, and he started to laugh because he says, "Yeah," I said, "And how easy can you get rid of your pen pal? You just stop writing. You just stop communicating, and there's no big deal." And he says, "Yeah, you're right. This is so cool. I never thought about it like that." But this person was really, really stressed out, and he was a chef. And he said, I know how to handle stress. He says, but I just can't handle this relationship. We're laughing, and I don't mean to be laughing at him at all. It's laughing at the situation that we find ourselves in, because it was quite sort of laughable. And at the same time, I really felt his pain. 5-6 years in a non-virtual, virtual reality relationship. He'd never met her, never kissed her, never, how can you be in a relationship like that? It's nuts.
I think also what could happen is that the person becomes more and more withdrawn, and their confidence level just goes lower and lower, and they're afraid to even meet somebody in real life.
Mm. Well, we certainly are living in extraordinary times where we're very much connected to the computer and the phone, and we're very much in our social relationships in that way. So I can see for young people that this is now their way of communicating, and that will obviously cause some challenges when you're in the physical, the real world, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Now, wait, I'm going to call you on this, because you know how I like to just test you sometimes, because you're so good. By the way, none of this is scripted. We just go with the flow. So you are in London. I'm in Florida in the United States, and I consider us friends, but we've never met. Does that mean that our friendship doesn't exist?
No, it doesn't. I'm not in a physical, intimate relationship with you.
Well, thank God for that.
That would be a little different. I'd be suffering severe non-intimacy.
So, but in other words, you can have a relationship with someone over a computer, for example, in terms of business or friendship.
Yeah.
Just not a romantic relationship.
I think it would be very tough to have a romantic, intimate relationship.
Let me hold you, computer. Let me give you a big hug.
It just doesn't, compute to me.
That was a good one. So, well, thanks for sharing that, for the reasons that people usually reach out. Obviously, that was a one-off, but especially during this time of year, and I'm not saying it's today or tomorrow or the next day, even the first 3 or 4 weeks of January, the whole month, people are going through a lot of different things, and that's a time that they might reach out to you as well.
Yes, in January, it's like all the build up to Christmas and New Year. And it's known as the January blues, where everything's being done, all the build up to Christmas and the holidays and being with the family or not being with the family, and, sort of all that celebrating and drinking or not drinking and all that food and that stuff that we do, the pantomime of that celebratory extravagance moves people into a January blues, where it's like sort of what's next, and there's no bank holidays to look forward to. In England, we have a lot of bank holidays. There isn't any in January. And certainly here in colder climates, it can be even worse, because then the nights are dark and longer. I'm not so sure it's the same when you're in sunnier climes and the days are longer, but certainly when the nights are longer and it's darker days and the weather's gloomy, wet, and not so nice, that our body and our mind tends to suffer because there's nothing to look forward to. The next real thing to look forward to then is Easter, and that's not until the springtime. And so people sort of, after all of that celebratory bliss and all that celebration and festive stuff, is that they've come back down to earth, and then they just have to kind of get on with it. And that can be quite diminishing for people to cope. Some people want to have that something to look forward to. So January is the time, especially if people have the money and the time, they book their holidays. They look for what they're going to do when they're going to go away in the summer, because that gives them something to look forward to. Or they're booking things in the spring and in the summer to start planning ahead and looking forward to having better times. And when the mood is low, this is when relationships can get difficult. This is when our immune system can be lowered because we're not feeling so great. And this is also a time where relationships can suffer, because if we're not okay, the world is not okay around us.
You bring up a lot of great points. And I do know people who have broken up as a result of, the holidays are over now and waiting for other things. It's always waiting for something to happen. But I think it's also, and I want your therapist hat to tell me if this is accurate or not. I think it's also a matter of your perspective and your perception. And what I mean by that is I started thinking about the Christmas holidays, and I could be off on one or two, but I'm going to say pretty much across the board that since I got divorced in 1999, so it would have been 1998, I spent every Christmas holiday by myself without a partner. And I'm just used to it now. So birthdays I spent by myself. I just had an accomplishment today that there's no one to celebrate with. And I'm okay with it because I have myself. I'm not looking outwards for those types of accolades. There was a point in my time in my life that I did. But what are your thoughts about that? Am I too far the other way?
No, I feel that when you feel good in yourself and you're celebrating in your own way for yourself, then you are complete. That's how I look at it. You're a complete person, not needing to be with someone else to share, to have that accolade and that celebration and that joy. And so when you are in that space, then you will meet, sorry, I don't know whether you want me to really say this, you will meet another person that is complete too, that is happy in themselves and that is happy to be in their own celebratory experience. And then you meet two complete people meet, and then they're comfortable celebrating and sharing together and experiencing things together because they're both complete in their own way. That you're not looking for another person to bring into your life to make Christmas work or to make New Year work or to make Easter or bank holidays or, times that were supposed to be, in inverted commas, were supposed to be in a couple, and that's the norm, or that's the natural that we should be. And if we're not, then we're not being real, and we're not looking like we're perfect. That's the place where if you're looking for somebody to complete you, that will have a problem in itself, because you won't find the completeness with that other person, because they're a half of a person too, because they're looking for that half.
I love that you brought that up, because we discussed that on another show about looking for your better half, your other half. Mm-hmm. So you're half a person looking for another half a person doesn't make a lot of sense. But when you are a full person and you do feel complete, I know you feel that way and I feel that way. Many times in my experience, people want to fix you because there's something wrong with you. And I discussed this on an earlier show a little bit, but I've had a lot of people reach out to me to say, hey, we need to get you back out there. We need to fix you up with somebody. We got to get you into social life. No, you don't. You don't have to do anything because I'm really happy with the way I am. But they look at me like something's wrong with me.
Well, that's their perspective, and that is their way, because they're putting on you what they think is right. You know, what I'd like to do is meet somebody that's kind of similar to myself and enjoys similar kinds of things, so I can share some of the things that I do with them. Rather than, you know, not share. So I'm not looking for anybody. And at the same time, if I meet somebody, it'd be lovely to share some of the beautiful things that I do, you know, and some of the ecstatic dances that I do, and the meditations. I mean, I'm going to a meditation, chanting and dancing meditation on New Year's Eve, which is going to be amazing for me. And I'm going to share it with a really lovely friend. And, you know, that for me is going to be a completely alcohol-free experience. And it's a place where I'm not saying, no, I don't like alcohol. It's saying that I'll be really high on life through the chanting. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful experience. I'll float home. I know I will, because I've gone to this type of concert many times, and I've always had a really wonderful experience. And it's that I'd love to share with someone.
She's putting it out there, people. You can email Caroline if you're that person. So, Caroline, when we want to give some tips and some education, some hope and inspiration to people who are out there, since we're talking about relationships now, let's just stay on that for a moment. If someone's in a relationship and they're not happy, but, you know, New Year's is coming up, and then this is coming up, and that's coming up, and then the kids, and then, you know, when is a good time for somebody to say, you know what, it's just not working?
At the time that you're both in a place to have a frank conversation without feeling that you need to be one thing or another, you know, sort of an honest conversation. So not when either of you are doing something, because that doesn't work. A time when you're both calm, not engaged in other activities, maybe towards the end of an evening where you're both relaxed, had something to eat, and then have that frank and meaningful conversation. Because when you're distracted doing something else, then it's very difficult to have that conversation, because then you're not totally present in the conversation of, hey, things are really just not working here right now.
Thanks, Caroline. And what's a good way to bring up the subject? Is it, hey, you just don't do it for me anymore? Or, you know, just, I'm kidding. But what can you say to someone that's not going to hurt their feelings, regardless of how you deliver it?
Well, this is very personal, isn't it? You know, I can't put words into anybody's mouth, if that makes sense. It'd be very difficult for me to say, hey, this is a set of words that you use. And I would make it not about that the other person's wrong. That's really, I feel, quite important. That if you say, you make me feel like this, you make me feel like that, so that makes me, you know, want to end this because I'm not happy. That's not a good way to end things. If, you know, I feel that to say that things have changed for you and you don't feel the same anymore, and, you know, you feel that it's time to cut the cords or time to let go of a relationship that you've outgrown, you know, and then you're not making the other person wrong. I think it's very, very difficult when you start getting into that blame game and the shame game and making the other person feel guilty, because relationships, they last for a reason, a season or a lifetime. And some relationships, you know, last for a long time and then they end. And it's because people change, they move on, they move into different interests. And, you know, many people split up. They call it the midlife crisis, you know, in their 40s or 50s. And there's nothing wrong in that, because if you met the person, you know, when you were a teenager or early 20s, by the time you're 40 or 50, you will be a different person. And I certainly am not the same person I was when I was at school, when I was at college, when I was at university, and when I was in the marriage. You know, I've changed a lot during that time. Life has, you know, thrown lots of curveballs at me, and I've changed with those curveballs and grown and feel very different as a person than what I was when I was a teenager, when I was at school, and when I was in my 20s, and when I was in my 30s. So we're all like that. We all grow, evolve, and change.
Good points. I know some people struggle with the fact that they took vows till death do us part, and really believe that they have to go the distance with the person, even though both people are unhappy.
Well, I was one of those people, and you know, I was brought up very much as a Christian, and no matter how unhappy I was, I would never have walked away. I was lucky that my then husband said, it's not working, you know, he doesn't love me anymore, and he left. And that allowed me the space and the freedom to begin again. I would never have ended it, because that wasn't part of my makeup. I've now done a lot of training and therapy work since then, and I wouldn't put myself into that situation again. But at the time, you know, that was my belief structure. You know, sort of when I was growing up, man, you know, we came from a place where you make your bed, you lie in it. You know, if you get married, that's it. You know, it's for life. But it's not really that way anymore. The culture has changed a lot. And, you know, beliefs about staying with the person forever when it's not working, they're very much different now from the 50s and 60s, you know, when our parents got married. And I believe that, you know, sort of if you're not happy, then it's appropriate not to have to feel that you have to stay in something that makes you terribly unhappy.
And I love that expression that you have. What is it? People come into our lives for a season, a reason, a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's friendship as well. You know, sort of friends come in for a reason, a season or a lifetime. And when some things kind of get upset or they don't work, sometimes I kind of look at it and think, oh, maybe the reason's done. You know, maybe that's they've come in for a reason, and now that reason is no longer valid anymore, and so then the relationship or the friendship ends. You know, when I've certainly experienced a few of those, and it is upsetting at first, because we like to make it very personal. You know, we like to think, oh, you know, they did this to me, they did that to me, and you shouldn't have done that, because we're human. We do that. You know, when I reflect, I realize, you know, it was for a reason. It was for a period of time. And a lifetime doesn't mean your whole of your lifetime. It can mean a specific lifetime in a career, a job. It can be an occupation. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean for your entire lifetime.
Absolutely. And sometimes people disappear, maybe we disappear, and there's a reason. And all parties know the reason and don't need to really discuss it. But other times people just disappear and we don't know what the reason is. Would it make it any better if we had a conversation about, hey, I don't want to be friends with you anymore because I've outgrown you, or I don't think it's a great idea that we're friends anymore? Or do you think it's better just to slip into the night?
Sometimes people find it very difficult to have those kinds of conversations. They find it difficult to, for want of a better expression, speak their truth. Because they certainly are uncomfortable to be confrontational. So they don't want to say what's really on their mind. So for them, it's easier simply to go silent or to ghost you, because they don't know how to express themselves. And that's not about you, that's more about them.
Very true. And a lot of times there's growth in the silence. And we talk about that even when it comes to listening skills, that when someone is silent, they're processing the information, but yet the other party feels so uncomfortable that they just have to blurt something out or keep talking because this silence is disturbing. It's off-putting to some people.
Sometimes when people call me and they're telling me what's wrong, I will listen and continue listening until I feel there's a point that they've told me everything that they want to say. And then I say, right then, let's have a look at this. What they'll do is they will fill in the gaps. They'll sort of blurt it all out, and then they will give a little bit more detail. And then I might turn around and say, okay, then I've got all I need in order to be able to help you look at what's going wrong here. But that silence, I just sit and listen, and that silence is almost killing them, because, they might turn around and say, I think that's it. I've got nothing else to tell you. and that's because I've allowed the space. And it's important at the beginning to allow space for them to say everything, because it might be that they only tell you the top line, and what's really going on is much deeper.
Absolutely. Now, what about if a person goes through something and they don't want to talk about it, or they haven't talked about it for years? Will it eventually be resolved, or do they have to speak to someone?
We are a product of our own experiences, and if we don't express how we truly think and feel emotionally or verbally, what can happen is it will have an impact on the body and on our emotional health. So if we're not expressing our truth, that will affect the throat chakra, which is here, and that affects the thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland is related to the throat chakra. So if we're continually not expressing or saying our truth, the throat chakra will have some issues. So underactive thyroid, for instance, which is quite a major thing, because thyroxine is given from the doctors if there is an underactive thyroid, which will actually speed up the heart rate. Or overactive thyroid if you're kind of saying too much, but not actually expressing your truth. This can actually lead to all sorts of mouth or throat infections. For instance, lots of actors and celebrities, singers, they will have operations on the throat because they're never really communicating their truth. They're always in role. Being someone else or being something else in terms of being on stage. So you hear a lot of celebrities and singers and actors having throat operations and growths removed from their throat and their voice box because they're not expressing their truth. And it might be that there's anger there that's not being expressed. It might be that there's emotion that's not being expressed, or simply not feeling comfortable to express how they really think and feel in a general situation in their everyday life. So yes, that's just one example of not expressing how you truly feel can affect you. So if you're angry about something, that can impact the body in terms of inflammations, like arthritis, for instance. Or if you're really angry, it can affect the spleen. It can affect the kidneys, create kidney stones. If you're really, really emotionally bereft of a bereavement, for instance, it can actually shut down the heart chakra, which means that you will see the world in a very dark place and life will be very challenging. So if we're not expressing how we truly think and feel in a general way, it has massive implications in terms of the way that we feel in life and the way that we experience physically, emotionally, mentally, and behaviorally our relationships.
And all of this can lead to stress.
Well, yeah. Physical, emotional, mental, then the mind just keeps going, and the mind, instead of being connected to the emotion and the speaking our truth and expressing what we truly feel, then we shut down the emotions and feelings, and the escape route is the mind. And the mind then becomes very mentally alert And so then we don't feel, we exist through life rather than feeling and experiencing life.
And to tag on to what you just said, one of the things that I am letting go of, I've really become quite aware of it, is my response to certain things. I can't control other people's behavior or the actions other people take, but for a lot of my life, I've taken it very personally. Oh, she did this, so she must think that, so now I'm going to do this, but I don't have to do anything. Whatever the other person's doing or not doing, I have to be accountable for how I'm showing up. And I've lately started asking myself, why are you feeling this way? Or why are you acting this way? And it's interesting, where I live, we have this walking or running path. It's 2 miles long. And I've been walking it or running it for 40 years. And I can remember the same spot on the path thinking, oh, I remember 3 years ago, I was obsessed about this. And now I'm obsessed about that. And you just kind of catch yourself in these similar patterns, but yet I'm able to say, okay, I'm letting that go. I'm releasing that. And I think when we're not able to do that, it causes us a lot of stress because we're imagining scenarios that are, who knows how far-fetched they are. As an example, I remember I was dating somebody, it's a long time ago, and they just ghosted me for a long time. And I was calling the hospitals. I was like calling the police departments. And you and I have discussed this. And the bottom line was that the guy just didn't want to see me anymore, but he didn't tell me. But yet I'm imagining all these things. I'm getting completely and totally out of control when whatever scenario I imagined, it didn't matter because this person made a decision to do something and I decided to get out of control because I didn't know what the decision was. I just thought, oh, this doesn't make sense.
This is when we're totally in the mind. The mind just like creates all this stuff and none of it's real. It's imaginary and but it's real for us because we're feeling what we're thinking and we're then responding internally to that upset and the drama, the whole scenario that we're playing through in our minds. And that's it. It belongs in our minds. It's not actually reality. That we can work something up into a complete spinny top. We can really work our way all the way up and be really upset and angry, and nothing's happened. It's all in our mind. And this is how, when we are stressed, we can be living, that we will build something up in our mind, whether it's a future thing or a past thing. And it's not actually happening in this current moment. It's happening in your mind. And we are the actress, the actor. We are the movie star of our own movie. And
I like that.
And we are, sort of creating everything. I mean, it's just a whole drama, soap opera drama. And when we realize that we do that, we can actually create some nice things.
Yeah, why do we never have any nice things? It's always bad. And it's exhausting, isn't it?
Oh, geez, it's so debilitating in terms of your energy, because if you're focused on all the negative stuff, then what happens is energetically, everything follows. And so we will feel really down. And we're feeling really down for no good reason. Just we worked ourselves up like a little spinny top in our mind. and it's not real. We're laughing, and at the same time, because I express it this way so that you can see it, because when we're in it, we're not laughing, we're highly hysterical and angry and upset. But I'm describing it like this because you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to look at it over there and you'll say, yeah, that is what I do. I wind myself up like a little spinny top, and I can see myself going round and round. And for what? Because it's all in your head. It's not real.
Yeah, it's all in your head. I remember After I got divorced, I was very happy, but went into another relationship and would just put on like really sad music so I could just cry his like the same song over and over again, going through all these scenarios and this and that. And one day I just said to myself, how much time have I actually wasted crying about things that have who knows if they happened or they didn't happen, instead of putting energy into something where we can make ourselves feel good. We put energy into things that just bring us down. Why is that?
Well, there is a place for grieving. There is a moment in time if a relationship ends, if something happens that's difficult, that we do need to allow space to express the emotions. And so putting on a lot of sad songs if there's a relationship breakup would seem appropriate because that's part of your mood. But being in that situation 3 years later, or 4 years later, or 10 years later isn't very sensible and it's not helpful. This is what we do. So if there has been a recent bereavement, it's completely okay to grieve, to cry, to be upset. And we might be drawn to things that will make us feel upset or saddened. You know, we might be drawn to music that will make us cry because music connects us to our emotions, which is really, really helpful. And so it is a cathartic experience for many people to be in that space of emotion. And it's not a bad idea to be like that when something has happened, and it's happened very recently. But when you're in that space 5 years later, 6 years later, 10 years later, 20 years later, then that's the time to worry.
And that's the time to call you. 5 years before, actually. So that's a question I'll ask you before we close out. So when is a good time if a person is struggling with something or the relationship doesn't feel right? When is a good time to call a therapist? Do you wait until, you can't even function anymore, or you're just crying constantly, or do you realize something's going on and then you reach out? Because I think I'm giving you a lot of information, but I think where people struggle is they feel like they can fix it themselves. I know what I can do. Let me try to fix it myself. And then they can't. And by the time they get to you, they could have saved themselves a lot of pain.
I absolutely get what you're saying because many people do that. Now, Einstein had an amazing quote. He said, you cannot solve the problem in the same consciousness that you created the problem. So if you've got a problem and you've created it, there's no way that you're in the same consciousness going to be able to solve it. So that's why when you share a problem with someone, it's always interesting that they see a different perspective and they're actually more in a place to be able to show you things that maybe you didn't see, that the other person can see plainly and as clear as day. And so when you're in a situation, in a challenging problem that you can't find your way out of and you are suffering, it is always best in that space of awareness. This is the key. When you're in awareness that something is really not working for you, that's the time to reach out and ask for help. Whether it's a friend that you reach out to or a therapist, it really just depends on you and where you feel comfortable. It's first of all to be in a state of awareness that there is a problem, because if you can't see there's a problem, no one can help you until you see that something's not right and something's not working.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that we've really learned as a result of the pandemic is ask for help. And it doesn't have to be a crisis. It can be something that you're just not sure of, that you want to follow your intuition, but you have questions, and it helps to just run something by someone else. That doesn't mean you're looking for them to give you an answer. You're just looking for someone to listen, for you to bounce ideas off of.
Absolutely. It's integral in our times of change. There's been a lot of change in the recent 3 years that all of us have had to cope with, and all of us have had to adjust in many different ways. Our working, the way that we socialize, our way that we do things in our everyday. And it's important to be honoring of yourself in those challenges and those changed ways of having to handle things. Many people have lost their jobs. Many people have changed their careers. Many people don't have the financial capacity that they used to have. And so they're not able to do all the things. And some people are earning so much money, it's ridiculous, that they're still unhappy. So we're all, there's a mixed bag of people's experiences and challenges. And it doesn't mean that the person that's earning tons of money is the happiest at all. It means that we're all having our own individual challenges. And it's important to recognize when we're in a challenge and feel comfortable to reach out and say, hey, can we talk? This is kind of on my mind. This is not working, because it's in that place of honesty, because we might not see what somebody else can see.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I concur. It's time to close out for Pet Psychic Amina. So before we do that, Caroline, we have your information, but for people who can't read the banner, or they're listening on a radio station or a podcast platform, how can people contact you and book in for a session with you?
Well, you can reach me on NoMoreStress. That's the 3 words as they are, NoMoreStress at live.co.uk. I offer a free 30-minute stress buster consultation. That's you give me the parameters of what the problems are for you, and I will identify the root cause of one symptom. This will alleviate your experience of the stress as you experience it now, and you will feel more peaceful and you will get an incredible night's sleep. Or you can call me on +44 if you're international, 0 if you're local, 7523 120 189. I literally want to help you bust your stress. And if you want more of me and you have more symptoms, then we can talk about a package to help you literally bust your stress so that you feel more peaceful in every aspect of your life.
Yeah, bust that stress. Get it out of here. Goodbye, stress, and hello to a nice, peaceful 2023. Or if it's not going to be nice and peaceful, because everything's not always peaceful, getting the tools to deal with whatever might come your way is really important so that you can be a whole person, like the two of us, 2 holes.
Make a lovely big sort of combination. I do want to say, because this is my last show with you in 2022, I want to say thank you for being an incredible person to work with, an incredible host. I've really enjoyed the Listening Mentor in 2022. And I look forward to more shows in 2023 and sharing more wisdoms and having more fun with our audience. And I want to wish everyone an absolutely delightful, peaceful, and happier 2023.
Caroline, back at you. I feel the exact same about you. And you have brought so much value and you've grown so much, even though you were already a professional. I just have seen you grow so much as a result of your Talking Heads episodes and these shows. I ask tough questions that, I don't give you any time to think about them. And then after you get one, you get another one. And you just show up at the highest level because you are a true professional. And I also want to announce that you have earned our President's Club Award, which I'm super excited about. I don't think I posted it yet. So congratulations. The President's Award is only for certain people who have shown and demonstrated that they are committed to helping other people and that they are actively involved in what we're doing here in our mission and vision. And you are definitely one of those people. So in addition to being a show host, in addition to being an expert presenter in Talking Heads, in addition to being an elevated listener, in addition to being the star of 2 of our book series, you just are a bright light in this world. And I have so much love and respect for you. So thank you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just loving it. I'm really, really loving it. And, you know, I close out my year being, you know, super happy with what's been achieved from my perspective on USA Global TV. I really, really am excited about what's coming up because we've done so much in this last year. And I'm excited for our viewers too that tune in, because USA Global TV and radio is just expanding and getting bigger, and it's getting more exciting as it goes on. So thank you, and thank you for the recognition. I really, really appreciate that. And to earn the Rookie Award, I mean,
yes.
you know,
Rookie of the Year award.
I mean, I really have climbed mountains to get my tech working. So, and that's because the reason is bigger than my block on the technology. My reason for being here and for showing up professionally as a broadcaster is much, much bigger than my, you know, me hiding under the duvet of being a non-tech person. And that's because it's much, much bigger than me.
You're here for a reason, and the technology allows us to give the information and education, and you have mastered that technology. So kudos to you for that. And I'm very excited to work with you again in next year, and our show is coming back. So thank you again. And I wish you a beautiful holiday, and we'll be in touch. I think we have a few things we want to chat about. So thank you.
So bye-bye, and see you in 2023.
See you in 2023. See you next week. We'll see you also for the spelling bee. I forgot about that. The spelling bee competition.
Oh, absolutely. That's Monday. Yes.
Yeah, that is Monday. Okay, fantastic.
Wonderful.
All right, bye for now, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And thank you to each and every one of you who have been watching, who have been listening, who've been commenting, liking, and getting the word out that we are here. I do want to announce that I have been working behind the scenes so that we have a brand new introduction. We have new music. We have a new logo. So there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes. And it's a good thing that I love what I do. I can't wait to get up every day and see what will I create today. And that's all because of the inspiration that you, our guests, our audience, our team bring, and how you're all showing up. So I wish you the happiest of holidays. And remember, if this holiday is causing you some stress, it's one moment in time. It's one day in a lifetime. And I just look at it that way. And what can we create? How can we help each other? How can we, as humanity, come together and find and create a world of peace? Thank you again. God bless you all. I'll be coming back very soon in the next 10 minutes with Pet Psychic Amina. And then our show, The United Kitchens, for today only, will be following Pet Psychic Amina. That's a change in our schedule just for today. Thank you again. Bye.